What's up, guys? It's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into the Wimbledon Championship. I covered this in. It was a video I did not too long ago. It was either the quarterfinals or the semis, and I've been saying from the beginning. To me, this was one of the most scripted results in quite some time. Now, I haven't watched tennis in a bit, but I just remember when I used to think it was real back in, like it was between 2013 and 2016, I was really into tennis. And like a schmuck, I'd always hammer guys like Roddick because they would get good odds. And I'm like, oh, he's got a killer serve. He's going to get it done. And of course, they never would. And Djokovic broke into the scene and just, beat Federer. And we're going to go into that in a minute. Beat Nadal, never looked back. And everybody, and now if you look back, it's you can kind of probably see why this happened. Everybody just would keep taking, including me, because I thought it was real. Whenever Djokovic was matched up against Federer or Nadal, would hammer Federer or Nadal, and he just kept beating them. They won too. It wasn't like it was completely lopsided. Him and Nadal actually almost have a perfect record, or perfectly even record against each other. Djokovic has one more win, but my point is, I know people were hammering the two, quote, GOATs. And who knows how much money Vegas cleaned up with Djokovic over the years. So I think Carlos, I said this before, he really gives me Djokovic vibes. Like when Djokovic came on the scene, just ran through all the best guys that were currently there and never looked back. And that's what they made Djokovic do this tournament. He looked just unstoppable. And I think that was to get a bunch of money on him. The reason I liked Carlos was because we just saw Djokovic beat him in the Aussie Open. And to me, it wouldn't. And Carlos lost because of fatigue. That was what supposedly happened. He got tired. His body gave out. And to me, it just made perfect sense that they were going to have him come back, this time around. And this time he's going to be more conditioned. And he was going to wind up closing it out, get his redemption. Because I didn't see them burying the new guy, Carlos. Just, he had to prove he's actually the best guy in tennis, and Djokovic is beating him. I feel like it weakens him, and now it's like Sinner, Alcaraz, Rune, all these different guys that are just okay, but none of them were able to take the reins from Djokovic. And I said it would be a torch passing, and sure enough, 4 times after Alcaraz wins, McEnroe and them are saying, yeah, he dethroned him, because he beat him once on grass. So, it is pretty interesting. Now, you see, this was like a freaking complete fairy tale. Djokovic came out, looked unstoppable. Then I'm watching the second set, and in the tiebreak, he just hit 2 right into the net. He was up on the break, and first he attempted a really risky drop shot, Djokovic did. There was no reason to. He was serving, and Alcaraz just got it back in play, and then he does this drop shot, unforced error. Then he hits it into the net, and then he's acting like he's mad. So I saw a speech at the end. I get it was a real speech. Whether it's rigged or not, if you see your family, you dedicate time, you're gonna, be a little emotional. But to me, that second set tiebreak was just ridiculous. Then Alcaraz takes the third. Then they have Djokovic beat Djokovic and just bounce back. And then Alcaraz was able... there was only a total of 3 points that separated. It was 170 points to 167. It was pretty insane. But between the fatigue, the fact that everybody was going to be on Djokovic, and the fact that it only made sense, in my opinion, now we have a rivalry. Now for the next year or two, while the other guys are getting ready, because people are saying how this is the weakest era in a while, Djokovic and Alcaraz can go back and forth, and that's what I think they'll do. And you'll have Nadal on the mix. You'll have Murray in the mix. And Murray's, I don't think he's a draw, really. I don't think he ever was. But he had his year. They gave him, literally 1 year, and then he just sucked again. But you're going to have, I think Eubanks is going to be inserted. He's an entertaining guy. He's an American, so it'll be interesting. But, yeah, just wanted to go over why I thought he won. Now, it's amazing because, again, it reminds me of Kareem. I went into how it's funny, and this is Nick Wright brought this up, this guy from First Things First. And it's a good point. He basically says, like, because up until very recently, you had him as the point leader, all time. And he was also the ring leader and the MVP leader among Jordan and James. He was tied with Jordan with 6 rings, and he's got the MVPs with 6. I think he's got the most MVPs of the 3 of them. And it's considered like a hot take if you have Kareem ahead of either of those guys. And I just find it funny because he's the leader in every, measurable metric. And just because of the way Michael's been marketed and because he did the right things, he gets treated so much better. We're seeing the same thing with Djokovic and Federer and Nadal. Djokovic has proven that he's better than these guys in every conceivable way, okay? So, and this is a reason I think it's scripted as well. Again, they treat Roger like, Michael Jordan treatment, just Tom Brady. Like, he gets the GOAT treatment. But it's very interesting because, again, his record against Djokovic has a winning record. Federer has, 21 or 22 Grand Slams. Djokovic has one more than that. And his best service for Federer, like where he's considered the GOAT, like Nadal is on clay, he's got 8. Djokovic would have got 8 with a win, and that was one of the biggest reasons I also thought he wasn't going to win. I didn't think the guy who went against them on the vaccination policy, and really you can tell that they were not happy with how he acted. I did not think he was just going to come back and tie the golden boy for that record. I think that record's going to stand for decades to come. I don't think Djokovic is going to tie it. Tying it, he might as well break it, and I just don't think he's going to. So you see Djokovic won the last 4 or something, 3, I guess. Oh, no, I think he won the last... Yeah, he won the last 4 or 5. Okay, he was runner-up in this one. But, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. Because, again, people will make the argument like, oh, well, Djokovic came up when Federer was out of his prime. But to me, that's nonsense because they're only a couple years apart. Djokovic just played Alcaraz to 5 sets. He beat him in the other match they played. And he's 16 years older. Djokovic came up, and he wasn't exactly like his first year killing it. But Federer was still in his 20s and early 30s when Djokovic was doing well against him. So I don't buy that argument. It's like the people that say his losses to Larry don't count because he was young. I'll take a 23, 24-year-old Michael over a 36-year-old Bird, however old he was. So to me, that never made sense. Nor does this. So Djokovic is the first guy ever to come up and have, I won't say pummel, but decisively do well against the era before him, which would be Federer. I guess. I think he was still around when McEnroe was. I could be wrong. But just a lot of your older guys, Agassi from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and they were still around. And you had Federer, of course, winning record against him. Again, it's not a crazy record, but technically he's got a winning record against Rafael Nadal. And he's not winning the majors, as you can see. He's 11-7. He's got, I think Djokovic has the major record against Federer. It's actually I think it's like 13-6. But overall record, better than Nadal, better than Federer. And I guess we can just throw Murray in there for good measure. Nobody has him as the GOAT, but 25-11 against him. So he's got a winning record against all 3 of these guys. He has more championships than all 3 of these guys. And people still talk about him like, yeah, maybe he's the best. He could be a top 3 when it's not even close. He's already passed the both of them. And to me, this is just a perfect example because I put out a video about Russell Westbrook and Dame and the unequal treatment they get. And a lot of people were telling me like, yeah, but Dame's still amazing. He's so much better. Or Russ, I had one person telling me it was because he went to winning teams, like teams with superstars, which LeBron did, which Michael, which everybody basically did at some point. Their team had superstars or they went to teams with superstars. He just did it after these guys. But I think it just shows how the media can have people believe a player is nowhere near as good as he is, or he's much better than he is. So yeah, I find the whole thing interesting how they spin it. And yeah, we did really good. Anybody that, went with the exact, because that's what I told people. The exact was getting plus odds, Djokovic versus Alcaraz. And I'm like, this is just such a layup. And as far as the winner, Alcaraz made sense because again, you have to beat Djokovic before he's like way out of his prime, and then they can't say, Alcaraz only beat him when he was out of his prime. Like, yeah, he's still out of his prime, but they made a point of having him he looks better than most tennis players in their 30s. So this is a convincing win in his prime, at least in playing towards not like 2014 Djokovic, but still playing peak tennis that Alcaraz gets over Djokovic. So I expect him to be the guy going forward. Now, he might not win the very next tournament, the next major, because people might pound him. So that's where we might see Sinner. They're going to start establishing these new guys. Something like that might happen. But yeah, the whole thing I found interesting. Somebody brought up to me that Rory McIlroy got his 24th major 5 years ago today. I think it was Big Z. A few other people brought it up. And I found it interesting because the chair umpire was actually Irish, and he was giving Djokovic a really hard time. So that's what I mean. You can take these things both ways. You can say, oh yeah, he's gonna tie Rory. I took it like, oh well, there's a guy there from Ireland keeping Djokovic from tying Rory, because he was like just really being nitpicky with his Djokovic's serves and things of that nature. So yeah, this one didn't surprise me really at all, if I'm being honest. I think we did a great job calling this Wimbledon. And with tennis, they do. I said this before. McEnroe gives away the script. He says things like, "Oh, what a great story," and he went into the, this is the finale we all wanted. This is going to be like something out of a fairy tale. Like they're just always saying things of that nature. So, yeah, I find it interesting. I do think Djokovic is going to look really good still going forward. But again, I don't think they're going to have him shatter their Golden Boys records. Right now, he's got like 1 or 2 more majors than him and Nadal. So he might not win a lot going forward, but I don't think this is the end of him. But yeah, I found the whole thing very interesting. And like I said, I just don't get how Djokovic doesn't get treated, as undisputedly better than Federer and Nadal. And yeah, the King of Spain was there, King Philippe. I saw that. Once I saw him there, I was pretty happy because I'm like, it's not that far of a trek, but still. With the King of Spain there, this is the All England club. Like, if you're going to talk about symbolism and scripting things and making sure they have these passing of the torch moments, they had Queen, or Princess, whatever the heck she is, Kate there, all the celebrities. And interestingly, Jimmy Butler was there, and he just obviously played a Serbian. He lost to the Serbian, of course. But I found that interesting, too. When I saw Jimmy there, I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's some type of revenge, and he made a point of saying how he's like Alcaraz's biggest fan. So a lot of it's very, very interesting. And I think going forward, we can definitely take this is going to be what like Djokovic Federer was like for those first couple of years. And I think we can do really well, because most polls have Djokovic like 60%, like for this matchup, it was like 60% had Djokovic winning. And I think people are just going to have their goggles on like I did when I was taking Nadal Federer over and over. And they would lose to Djokovic, and I'd be like, there's no way this guy's better than both of them. And it was really the way the media was treating him. They just really didn't. They made Federer look like he was just the Jerry Rice of like, the sport, where he was just so flawless. And I think it's because he looked the part and he talked the way that they want you to speak. He was very eloquent. And Djokovic was more of, I guess that Kobe mentality is the best way I could put it. Not that Kobe didn't speak well, but he was just, always has been, just a gritty guy who wants to win, So maybe it's a Serbian thing. As you can see, Joker's that way himself. But yeah, if you didn't see my video, I did a couple videos ago. I went into this, and I went basically into why I liked him. So it's good to see we have a pretty good read. We got the women's one wrong. I thought Jo Bear would get her redemption, but she made a point of saying like, I'm gonna get it someday. So she's gonna get a major really soon, and she's getting like 10-1 odds in the Opens. So I'm probably gonna take her, thinking that she might win out of the U.S. and Aussie Open. I really think she'll win one of those. Kind of similar story to Alcaraz, just, redemption. They showed her crying and all these different things. So I think she'll get hers next. But on the men's side, we did really good. The over, I posted that on my membership site. It was like 40.5. And I thought it was definitely going to go over in 4 sets. And if you see, I actually, was off because it did not go over in 4 sets. Luckily, there was a 5th set, and that of course, made it go over. I just never imagined we'd see 2-6-1 sets, which is interesting. Like, for the people, again, that think it's real. I mean, yeah, you can get some momentum, I guess, lose 6-1 and then win 6-1. But here we have 2-6-1s, and right in the middle of that, we have a tiebreak that took like an hour. So I just don't see how you go from that lopsided to that even back to that lopsided. It just, again, it seemed like Djokovic really started to sell between the second and fourth set. And then he started picking it up in the fourth, and he got a break. And then by the fifth set, I think everybody was probably on Djokovic thinking, okay, like, he's weathered the storm. And they kept talking about the experience, how Alcaraz got tired last time. All these, it was like wrestling. And this time Alcaraz got it done. So, really interesting. Wanted to go into that. And I plan on having, I know I've said it a few times, but like I said, I don't want to just make them to make them. But I wanted to go into football and all of the different teams. And just, I've gone into, I've done a video already. I think I might have done two. But I want to go into why I think we're going to have particular division winners. Guys like Herbert, Lawrence, Lamar, which of those guys is going to be the guy that really takes off? Same thing with the quarterbacks that got drafted, Richardson, Bryce, CJ. I have a pretty good idea of which ones are going to be not busts, but just not live up to expectations right away, and the ones that are going to kind of sneak out of nowhere and have really good years. And yeah, tennis is crazy. 80-1, Vanda Verosa. If we picked her, we would have got. Alcaraz was 4-1 going into this. So, I mean, I'm liking tennis odds a lot. And what makes it even nicer is for this Open, basically what I did was I took Alcaraz to win it from the beginning, but every match along the way, I just pounded Djokovic. With my logic being, well, if I lose the money I pounded on Djokovic, it's going to be almost impossible for Alcaraz. He's like, he has no formidable competition. And if Djokovic were to beat Alcaraz, that's fine because I had pounded him along the way, which would have more than sufficed, and it did. So it worked out both ways because I got Djokovic every week, and we got out, or every game I should say, every match, and Alcaraz won. But all I'm saying is between the live odds, the ability to hedge, and what I believe to be really set up and forced storylines, I just hope McEnroe is continuing to announce because he gives a lot away. I think we're going to do really good sticking with tennis. I'm probably going to stick with majors because it seems like they'll reserve the mid-tier players, for the off majors, for, your more minor tournaments. So that's where I can see Eubanks, Casper Ruud, these guys that have talent, people like them. They're just not as good as the others. I could see them winning a few of those. But yeah, I think we're going to get Djokovic, Alcaraz for the next year. Don't forget, Djokovic can now participate in the U.S. Open. Alcaraz, I think he won the last U.S. Open because Djokovic couldn't participate. So you can already see those seeds being planted. I think we might get another rematch at the U.S. Open, honestly. So I'm going to be looking into that, of course. I think that's in August or September. But yeah, I just wanted to go into this. And if you, like I said, you watched my last tennis video, we did pretty well. We had Eubanks going farther than most people. This wasn't in my video, but I had Ruud going out in the second round, and most people he was a 4-1 favorite, but he was like talking about how he hates grass, how he's allergic to it, and in the first round he just looked bad. And that's what I noticed. Like, they will turn it on and off like a switch, but they'll you can just tell by the way they're serving, by their pace. You can almost just tell if they're like how far they're going to go. Like, okay, this guy might win this one, but he's not going to make it out of the next round. And with a lot of players, to me, that was kind of obvious. Tsitsipas was another one where I'm like, okay, he's probably going to make a run, but I don't see him getting it. And sure enough, we had Eubanks beating him. So I think just looking at the draws and who makes sense, and here, to me, the only thing that made sense was Alcaraz getting redemption in 5 against Djokovic. Like, that's just what made the most sense. I just thought the fifth set would be a tiebreak. That was like the only thing I guess I didn't get right. But this made the most sense, and I think going forward we're going to be seeing a lot of similar things. We'll have Sinner in there and different guys, but to me this was just very, very set up. So yeah, it was fun to watch. So if you didn't see it, definitely watch it. There's some very awesome shots. But watch that second set tiebreak and tell me Djokovic is missing those shots or attempting those shots, because it was like this guy was just trying to sell, and he did a great job. I mean, you can see, because you could basically play real tennis for 98% of the time and then sell for 2%. And that's all you need to do. And that's what he did, basically. So that's really it. Nothing crazy, just a recap. And yeah, I just wanted to touch up on it because sometimes we're wrong. But here, I feel like we were so over the target that... And we've been doing good with golf, too. We do way better with golf and tennis than... Maybe it is true. They say with, like, the individualized sports, they're a little tougher to have complete coordination. It's just two guys. So maybe because you could just see how a guy's putting or something and it's just one guy. Or here we could see how they're hitting the strokes. It's easier versus when you have NBA, you got 5 guys and then you have bench guys. Maybe that's the reason. But yeah, I've noticed we've done really good with golf and then tennis, picking people early on and getting good odds. So hopefully that's, stands up and we can really make some decent money doing both of them. Hutch was pointing out to me, anybody that's taken Scheffler for a top 10 finish has basically just printed money. And I looked at it, he's right. It's crazy. So, because you're going to have all this money on him to win. So he doesn't have to win, but they want to establish him as a great player. So things like that, they're relevant to tennis too. Like taking Djokovic to make the quarterfinals, like it's clockwork, and he's going to do it 9 out of 10 times. So keep an eye out for that. If you see top 10s, Scheffler's a great take. I mean, that's coming from Hutch. He called that, and he's right. He told me this like a couple of weeks, probably like a month ago. It was back when Wyndham Clark won the U.S. Open for golf, and he's like, I took Scheffler, top 5, and he just made a run, and I think he finished in the top 5. And he's like, yeah, I like him in the Travelers top 5, finish top 5. Like, he just keeps doing it, and then he finishes top 10 if he doesn't finish top 5. So maybe because I thought it was real before, and now I have a much different perspective, and it's been like a decade since I've watched these sports. But yeah, we've been calling him really well, and I think it's going to continue. So again, it's never anything earth-shattering, but I think if you look at the speeches now, if you look at this match, if you watch Djokovic playing center and then playing Alcaraz, and if you watch the drop shots Alcaraz was hitting against other guys and attempting versus Djokovic, I think you'll see like there was a lot of things that changed in this game. And again, especially between the first and second set, it was insane. And really, it was more between this. It was really when the tiebreak started. That was like when I noticed very blatantly that Djokovic was not playing like himself. And of course, I'll take it any day of the week. I was posting on Twitter, and people were like, "Oh, you're such a hater," and I'm like, I don't think you people realize how much I need Djokovic to lose. But I was just pointing out that he was obviously selling that tiebreak, and so I'm curious how many people, because you have so many that believe football is rigged now. I am curious how many believe tennis is. I'm sure a good enough group of people do. But I just don't think people realize that if they're going to do it for football, they're going to do it for this centuries-old, very symbolic all-England club elitist event, like where they have to all wear white. Like, if you're both wearing all white, because of formalities, then right off the bat, that should tell you these people have some very rigid codes and probably rituals. So, yeah, congratulations to Alcaraz, real or fake, just like wrestling. I like to congratulate these guys. But definitely something I think they planned and had in the works for quite some time. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.